Okay, good afternoon everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started with our webinar for the day. It looks like my computer clock is a couple minutes slow compared to my phone clock here. So we will go ahead and get started with the webinar for today. Today we are talking about version 20, as you can see up there in the corner of my Church Windows screen. And so the screens that you're going to be seeing today are not going to match the screens you currently have. Version 20 is going to be out as soon as possible. And that's as specific as I can be right now. As soon as possible. The developers are working hard on the last final touches, and we're hoping to have it out here in just a few more weeks. So we are going to go ahead, and from here forward all of our new webinars are going to be covering version 20. So if you are here for help with version 19, you're going to want to go check out the pre-recorded webinars on our website, not the live ones that we're doing from week to week. Okay, so again today we're version 20, and we're going to be talking about the tabs on the individual record. Okay, so finally, before we get started, I just want to point out that we are going to keep everyone silenced as far as the microphones go. So if you have questions throughout the webinar, over on the right-hand side of your screen, probably you should have a webinar toolbar. And there's a panel where you can type in questions. And we've got Kellyanne with us to answer those questions for you. And if any of the questions seem like something maybe the whole group should know, I'll go ahead and answer them out loud. Otherwise, Kellyanne will answer them privately for you. Okay, and without anything else, let's go ahead and get into our membership. I'm going to go ahead and open it up here. And you'll see, first of all, it's going to look different than it used to. And the big difference that we've got here is we have our people button instead of separate members and visitors buttons. It's all consolidated, even though you can still classify it into the categories of members and visitors. So let's go on in and we'll take a look at our individual record. Now, as far as the family record goes and the rest of the changes throughout membership, you can check out our version 20 preview that'll go over a quick overview of all of the changes, and you can continue to log into these webinars that we're going to be doing to focus on the specific changes. And so we did one just the other day about the family record and about adding individuals. So today we're going to be focusing just on the rest of the tabs on the individual record. So the individual record is still over here on the right side of the screen, just like it used to be. It's just going to be a little bit more updated. So this first tab is where we have all of our main fields. I'm not going to really go through this tab too much, aside from pointing out our Customize Fields button over here. And these green zigzags. The green zigzags determine what direction the fields flow in. So we can either have the fields go down the page, or we can have them go in rows. So we're either doing one long list or we're doing rows. Those are the two ways of viewing this first tab. The next tab we have is Groups and Classes. Now this is going to function just like it used to. If you want to add information to the current group record, maybe we want to say that Nina has been in the adult choir since, let's say, January of last year, and we're not going to put an end date because she's currently in the choir, we'll say. So then we would just click Save, and that will allow us to make any changes on our groups and classes. We could delete it by clicking the minus over here. We can add new ones by clicking in that space at the top where it says click here to add new row. Alright, so that functionality is going to be very much the same as the current version. We just have labeled tabs instead of those picture icons, which are maybe a little bit confusing. You can see both the groups and classes and the skills and interests tabs are bold on this record, and what that means is that this record does have data on those tabs, so that's a nice little indicator for you. If I use my prior and next buttons here, you can see on Karen Bartholomew we have no skills and interests, and so this tab is not bold here. So that is a great visual indicator of whether or not your folks have any assignments on these two tabs. And then skills and interests again is going to work just like the groups and classes. You can click here to add a new one. You can add a specific skill as well as a level of competence. Let's say that Karen is a professional electrical person. And then if we just click enter on the keyboard, it'll go ahead and add that for us. And now you can see skills and interests is bold. And so that means we do have one assigned now. Next we have our addresses and contacts. And this is going to allow us to store up to 3 alternate addresses for this individual. You're also able to store up to 3 alternate addresses for the family. So that's pretty cool because you can now add a lot more information as far as addresses go. With our addresses, we have a bulk mailing tab, and I'm just pointing that out because it exists and people are probably going to notice it, but you're not going to use that tab at all. The only reason that tab would have information is if it's automatically filled out for you if you're doing bulk mailings. So don't worry about our bulk mailing tab unless you are participating in the bulk mailing. All right, so then we have our effective dates for this alternate address. You can use those or not, and it can be effective either recurring, so year to year. For example, maybe a college student who has their address from year to year, and that would allow you to enter just a month and a day, as you can see here, MM/DD. If I uncheck that, then we're going to be looking at specific dates including years. So maybe that's just somebody does a study abroad, and so they're only going to be using that address for 1 year. You can also make any of your addresses unlisted now if you want to store them but not print them on your directories. It's only going to unlist them for directory reports. It's not going to unlist them for regular reports. So your internal reports will still display the information, but your reports for distribution would not. And then the next checkbox we have is used for statements. That's referring to donation statements. So if you want the statements to always be sent to one of these alternate addresses instead of the main, you want to check this box. The rest of the fields here are pretty self-explanatory. You have up to 3 address lines. Typically you're just going to use that first one unless perhaps you have a company name, a suite number, apartment number, any kind of additional address lines you might need. You can add up to 3 of those now. Then we have our zip code. We have country, which is new. You are now able to store multiple countries, not just US and Canada. And a big victory for a lot of our users, we've separated city and state now, so they can be put in separate columns when we're exporting. They're no longer frozen together. All right. Then you have, as I said, you can add your extra individual alternate addresses once you've added a first one if you need. I'm going to close out of there and we'll move on to our last 2 tabs here. We have the comments tab, just a blank page until you start adding information there. Whatever you need, you can type as much or as little, absolutely nothing, or a whole novel about this person if you'd like. Lastly, we have the photo tab, And here's just where you can add a picture or clear out the picture if you don't want it. We do now have pictures. You can see there's a photo tab on the family over here. There is now a family picture, so you don't need to store your family picture on the primary person anymore if that's what you're used to. We're not doing that anymore. All right. And then the last thing we want to be talking about today is transfer individuals. And this is going to function just the same as it used to for transferring one person to a different family. The button is right up here, much more visible than it used to be up in that menu at the top. So all you need to do is click our Transfer Individual button, and you can choose one of the two or both of them. So you can choose all of the family members or just some using the check marks. And if we're transferring all of them, you'll see we can't transfer them to a new family. And that's just because it would be, kind of silly to take an existing family and move the whole family into a new family. It doesn't make much sense. So we would only be able to move all of the family members to an existing family. But for an example, let's go ahead and show how we would do a new family. We would pick a category here. So that's our members or visitors or any additional categories you might choose to add. We'll take members for an example. And we would add a new mailing label. So if we were going to separate Miss Donna here onto her own, we could just say, type her name. Let's see. It's not letting me type for some reason, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and try the existing family. This is a beta version, so this is still in testing. So some of the functionality is not 100% yet. Again, that's why we haven't been able to release it yet. We're still working some of the kinks out. So let's take a look at if we were going to transfer Donna Bell into Jen Arnold's household. Go ahead and click OK. And it's just going to give us a little message here letting us know that we want to double check these fields once we get back to the record now that it's copied. So we want to double check our mailing label, double check our directory report order, the individual sorting, that's this order down here of which person is listed in which order in the family members, and then also that family photo that I was talking about. Go ahead and click OK. And there we go. You can see we're in beta testing. It crashed out. So let's open back up. And again, hopefully we'll have absolutely all these kinks worked out and you won't get any of these crashes or anything when we release the new version for you guys to download. Alright, so let's open back up into our people file. And that just about does cover all of the information on the workbook pages that we were meant to cover for today. We've got that transfer individuals that we just finished talking about. The last thing on this screen I want to point out is delete family after transfer. And if we're transferring everyone, which in this case would be just one person, we don't want to leave the empty household behind. Because if we have empty households with no people, empty families with no people in them, they're going to throw off our labels. So we always want to make sure if we're emptying out a household, we want to delete that household after the transfer. And that's just this little checkbox right down here. Let me grab my highlighter so we can see it more clearly. Delete family after transfer. All right. So if there are any questions, go ahead and type them into the questions panel. Since we covered everything pretty quickly, I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about some of the fields that you're seeing here on the main tab. Most importantly, we have our directory report order. And And that is going to be pretty crucial for most reports. So it is now a required field. So you'll see if I make any changes on here, like if I pick a status code and I try and click save, I'm going to get a pop-up that says the directory report order is required. And do I want to add a value before I save? And the answer to that is usually going to be yes, you do want to add that value. However, if it's an existing record, you don't have to. I can say no, I don't want to give her a directory report order. But for a new field, we will have to fill that out. It is now required. Another slight change is the reason for termination is now simply being called inactive, and it's a checkbox here. And so anytime you add a reason for termination or an inactive reason for someone, it will automatically check the inactive box and it'll pop in a date for you. You can change all of that. You can clear it out if you'd like. But that is now called inactive instead of reason for termination. We think it's a little bit simpler for people to understand. Another cool trick that is built into the new version is if I have my mouse here on anywhere in the individual record and I right click, I have this customize layout button, and if I click that, it really quickly allows me to go ahead and rearrange some of these fields just by dragging them. And you can see in the top left hand corner we have a numerical value that tells us the order, and I can just drag these fields around to rearrange them in any order I want. I can also, when I'm finished, I just click this finished button. And if I go into the customize fields, I can also rearrange the order in here. You can see, like I was talking about, that include on directory is always required. And you can make any other fields you'd like required just by checking the required checkbox. All right, let's see. The only question that has come in is about that city and state. Will they be separated automatically? Yes, they will. That will happen as part of the conversion. So any of your current addresses, the city and state, will be split up automatically. All right, we are approaching that 20-minute mark, and again, we've talked about everything we needed to talk about, so if there are any other questions, definitely get them in. The rearrange fields, Missy was wondering if it's for all at once. Absolutely, it always is all at once. The order of the fields is not based on each individual, it's based on each category. So here in this customize fields screen, I pick either members or visitors, and that's going to determine the order of the fields for either members or for visitors. And then you do have a button up here if you want the categories to have the same order. So if you want members to be exactly the same as visitors, you'll just click that button to make all categories the same order. So it's not record to record, it's for category to category. Everything will transfer forward from version 19 to 20. Nothing is going to be lost in the data conversion. So you don't have to worry about any of that. I'm going to cancel these changes I've made, and it's going to rearrange the fields back to the original order I had them in. All right, any other questions? If you don't have any questions, I'd want to just say thank you for stopping by and watching this webinar. It'll be posted on our website in the next few days. As well as other version 20 videos that are coming soon. Patricia, the photos will not automatically go to from the primary to the family, but we have built in a special functions option that will help you transfer those very quickly. I can show you that real quick. If I close out of people, open up settings, The last tab here is individual and family pictures, and this is showing me the picture of the primary, and I can choose to assign that picture to family if I want by clicking this button here, and that goes ahead and moves that picture for me from the individual to the family. All right, any other questions? If not, again, thank you for stopping by. Go ahead and you can sign out when you're finished. It looks like that's all the questions we have. I'll go ahead and stick around for a couple more minutes just in case any last questions trickle in. Again, thank you very much, and we're really excited to get version 20 out to you as soon as possible.